Hey folks, welcome back to the channel, your home for all content Lord of the Rings home. Today we're going to be doing another installment of the Worth the Whale series. If you are new to the channel, or if you're new to the series, basically the premise is I tell you how much I spent on a pay-to-play character, usually the marquees, and then we go over and discuss, was it worth it? Very simple premise. Let's talk about Legolas and Gimli, or as in the official Discord, what they're calling them is Gimgalis, which is really hard to say and is a mouthful, but we'll stick with it. And I want to talk about how much I spent. Basically $100 on each. That's pretty standard for the marquees. It was $20 packs to get them from 3 to 4 stars, plus a little bit of gear and the 100k in gold. And then for me, for both of these characters, it took 8 of their treasure chest things to get them from 4 to 5 stars. Let's first talk about Legolas. As you can see, I've got him pretty much maxed. Not his skills, but definitely gear, level, whatnot. Pretty strong power. Obviously still 5 stars. I want to say Legolas was immediately impactful. Basically, I could use him on my arena offense and get see big results right away, even with kind of these lower skill levels. I really liked playing with him. I think his basic is a super fun mechanic. And so what I would basically end up doing is, even if their Eladin had a bunch of provokes, right? Because his basic pings 2 people and the second one is their lowest health, I would often just target Elrond, and then I could get a provoke stack down with the first shot of his basic, and then the second stack, he's still going into Elrond. And eventually what I was doing was I would break all the unbreakables on Elrond, and then have just a little sliver of health left, fire a shot into Eladin, second shot goes into Elrond, he's out, and now I can focus my efforts on getting down other characters. Really, really fun to play, immediately impactful. For arena offense, I don't think the AI does too well on defense. And in fact, anytime I see a team with Legolas, I will target him because it just doesn't work as well. But great character. 2, I think he's going to be an excellent raid character. He has crit, and he's got this, again, this ability with his basic to kind of move around a target and do things on the field besides what the main target is doing, but it's not quite an AoE. I think that's important for Chapter 1 still, because you can be targeting the bomber, get a stack, right? And then still be hitting somebody else, get their health down a little bit more. It's just that little extra help. It's not AoE, it's not as good as AoE, but it's a little bit extra, and I really like that. But I think he's going to really shine in Chapter 2, where crits become a big deal and where armor is looking like it's going to become a big deal, right? So armor, piercing, shots are going to be a big deal. Plus he's got a multi-hit attack, also something that's going to be a big deal for Chapter 2, right? So I think he's going to really shine in there, especially with Gimli. And I'm anticipating that. He isn't part of a full team, but what the third thing I really like about him is that he's got this leadership ability. They decided to give him one, and this has been important for like my free-to-play account. So what I've done is basically I've got a marquee elf team. I've got Eladin, Arwen, Legolas, and then also Naramiri and Elrahir on a team, right? Under Legolas's lead, and that basically serves as kind of like a third raid team for my free-to-play account right now. And it's really effective, and it works really well. And it also works for both chapters because he's giving out crit stuff and speed stuff. And I think that's going to be super important, at least for the first 2 chapters of the raid. So very impressed with Legolas, really happy with him. But let's move on to the Lord of the Glittering Caves himself. My goat, your goat, Gimli. Honestly, kind of disappointing. I don't know how else to put it. He doesn't have the same sort of viability and plug-and-play-ness that Legolas does. He was not immediately impactful at lower resources in Arena, and that makes sense. He's not an elf. He doesn't belong with the Elrond team or to fit in there in any way, right? But I think he was probably the worst marquee release I've seen for some time right now in the current context of the game. I think that'll change over time for sure, but he just doesn't fit into a lot of teams, right? The Fellowship team is not completely out. We have to wait for a while to get Gandalf anyway, who will be the leader of the Fellowship team. And he just doesn't fit with the dwarves because he didn't get a leadership ability like Legolas. He also requires an insane amount of resources to get going. So if we switch here over to LOTR.gg, right, you can see the details here on his basic to always get might, to give him that extra damage, level 6. His special 1, I think is okay, but definitely 5 and 6 is where you want it because it's got massive increases to the damage. This is where he really starts to become effective. 2-turn weaken is also really good. Special 2, I think you probably need to be down here in this area. Again, level 5 or 6 with the skills. His passive, I also think you need to be down here to get all, the most out of his skills. This is where his kit shines. So he's just a very resource intensive character, not to mention the fact that he actually has basically the same level of gear requirements as Lord Elrond does. So in terms of like legendary, in terms of gear requirements, he has like a legendary status in that way, right? What I mean by that is sometimes, right, like when you go at gear level 4, sometimes for other characters, they'll have like 2 pieces here that are still green at gear level 4. Not the case. It's basically immediately the next level up, and that makes sense. Like gear level 8, all purple here, right? Whereas a lot of characters, they have at least still 2 blues at gear level 8. So he's just a very resource intensive character that doesn't fit into a lot of different squads at the moment. I think he will be good down the line. I'm still excited to use him with the other dwarves, Feely, Keely, and Fro, and still with Legolas. I think he's a really good character there. His raw stats, amazing, again, but he's missing something. And so I think if we're going to try and answer the question here, are Legolas and Gimli worth the whale? I think the answer is no. And the reason I'm saying that is because you don't need to put a lot of resources into Legolas to get the benefits out of Legolas. And you need to put a lot of resources into Gimli to get the benefits out of Gimli for his kit. It doesn't fit anywhere. And so you're kind of taking this bet that the Fellowship team is going to be very good. And that also Gimli's going to have another place down the line in some other team comp that comes along, right? And that's not true. But if it does become true, there's a good chance he might already be farmable, in which case, again, not worth the whale. So, I had to do it because I'm very invested in getting a Fellowship team. That's kind of like what my favorite teams are, and dwarf teams as well. I really want to get a good meta dwarf team. And so this made sense from my account perspective. But like, if you're just going for straight optimal spending, this is definitely not the one for you. But let me know what you think down in the comments below. And with that, thanks for watching.